Screen, it blocks my mic. So welcome everyone to this call, our April call. As you should be able to see on your screen and saw in the invitation, we are focusing on one of the big priorities of our national chapters and of civil society everywhere, really how to strengthen our capacity for doing the work of community-led development. We're doing this at a very exciting time in that USAID has designed a new capacity strengthening policy in which they recognize that it should be people themselves who decide what capacity they want, not some outsider. This is a revolutionary shift. They intend to change their approach. I would say we can move faster than they can, frankly. So as you'll hear shortly, we will be doing a lot of work among ourselves to mutually support each other. So our agenda is that I will do a short introduction to the movement for community-led development. And then Gunjan will walk us through the framing of this call, how to use the CLD Assessment Tool, what has been learned. We'll hear from a number of organizations who have been doing this. There'll be breakout groups, as you see, that will link our own capacity strengthening needs with our own capacity strengthening resources, because the experts on both of those topics are on this call. That's y'all. And then there'll be updates from national chapters and a listing of upcoming events. So that's our program for today. Oops, jumped ahead too. So this movement for community-led development, if you're new to it, we launched this on the day that the Pope was at the UN to join in launching the Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 goals for ending hunger and poverty, for peace, prosperity, and the planet. And he said a great thing there. He said, it's all well and good for you countries to set goals, but the big question is, what will it mean for real human beings who are struggling to escape poverty? And that is where we come in. There are 1,500 community-based organizations and their network, through their networks, who are part of this movement. There are more than 70 international NGOs, and there are 17 national chapters, and then many more that are in formation. We have 5 goals. The first is to ensure that there is voice and agency for women, youth, and marginalized groups in local decision-making. Every human being has the right to voice in the decisions that affect his or her life. Adequate community finance. This is the toughest challenge. Shifting the power to communities means shifting money to communities, which to date, central governments have not done appropriately. Third, good local governance, by which we mean democratic decision-making, public forums, public accountability. Those 3 together should produce quality public services and create the opportunity for communities to become resilient to climate change, COVID, and other shocks. So with that, we have a theory of change. If you love theories of change, like I love theories of change, what we want over here is we want the Sustainable Development Goals to get achieved. And we're pretty clear that that can only happen if there are integrated strategies at the community level. So the movement national chapters are really the front line. Our global secretariat is supporting them with evidence. The national chapters set their own goals and they form partnerships to advocate with their governments to decentralize and devolve resources. And they also make facilitation partnerships to facilitate communities in their journey to become healthy, productive, and resilient, self-reliant communities. If those things converge, we think that's the only known pathway to achieving the SDGs. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Gunjan, who will go through what we're going to do today.
Thank you, John, and welcome everyone. If you've attended any of the movement calls over the last 3 years, then probably you've heard of the collaborative research and you've heard of this tool that we've talked about extensively. So what are we doing here today that's going to be a little different from what we have done so far, and how does that feed into this whole capacity strengthening framework that John has mentioned? So capacity strengthening is the thing of the hour, but all of us have been talking about, with the new USA draft policy, with it being an integral part of the umbrella strategy for the national chapters, whether it's one of the 3 pillars that have been identified for us in the movement in terms of our priority areas, but also as organizations, this is something that we have all been focusing on. The focus for us today really is on, well, how do we strengthen our capacities for doing CLD, right? So capacity strengthening for CLD is the frame within which we will be approaching the issue today. Now, last year in January, we launched this tool called the CLD Assessment Tool. At that time, it was a tool that had been developed by a whole group of organizations and people from all over the world for over 2 years, right? We worked together to figure out, what does community-led development look like in practice? How would it show up in different parts of the work that we do? And the tool was developed, it was extensively tested, piloted, and then released in January. In fact, on the call today, we have a lot of members of the team that developed the tool. I see Holta, I see Nelly here. I know there were a lot of others who were involved in just testing the tool. So welcome everyone, especially the team members who brought this to fruition. Why did we create this tool? We never wanted to create the tool. In 2019, when we started our research journey, our idea was to simply understand what is the impact of community-led development, right? What is the human process of change that takes place when CLD approaches are used? What kind of impact does it have? But what we heard from all of you, and when I say you, I mean from members within the movement, from a lot of funding organizations and others, is this is great, but what we really need is something that tells us, are we doing CLD? How are we doing CLD? How do we do CLD? And that's really why the tool was created. It was completely demand-driven. And when we launched it last year in January, the idea of the tool was to provide a framing for us to see as organizations, as individuals, where are we in our journey of community-led development, right? How community-led are our programs and what can we do to make them more community-led? Because that is the goal that we had, right? That is a collective goal that we have as a movement, but that's also a goal increasingly that a lot of organizations who are not a part of the movement have. USAID has been talking about locally led development. In November last year, Samantha Power talked about what that would look like. And that talked about putting communities in the driver's seat as well. So there is a realization we need to do it. There is a little bit of a vacuum where people are looking for, well, how do we do this? This tool has been a journey. This 1-year journey has been one where I can say, at least for myself, that it has strengthened my own capacity for understanding, relating to, and doing CLD, right? When we launched this tool, it was launched really as a tool that primarily at that point, INGOs and funding organizations could use to see, to use it on their programs to see, well, are we being community-led? How community-led are we being? What more can we do to be community-led, right? That was the design of it. We said, use it in a participatory manner, right? We encourage people to bring community members into this conversation when they use the tool, but it wasn't something which was like, this is how the tool has to be used. In this last 1 year, and with many people who are actually on this call, and so thank you for that learning journey, we have realized that the tool is so much more, and it is being used in so many different ways by so many different organizations, including ones we had never thought of, governments, municipalities, community-based organizations, in order to do a whole number of different things. So what we're going to do today is to look at some of the different ways different organizations from different parts of the world are using the tool, what have been some of the lessons learned, and how can we use it to strengthen our capacity for doing CLD. Now, that's just one part of it. This is also a very extensive discussion. So for those of you who are interested in using the tool or who have used the tool, in May, we are going to organize a full-fledged pause and reflect workshop. This would be a 2-hour kind of workshop where we are actually going to address some of the challenges that we are facing. We are going to have tips. We are going to kind of see how people have used it, adaptations, and all of that. So that's a full 2-hour session dedicated to this, which will happen, a working session. But for today, it's just to hear from these different experiences of using the tool. And then we will look into some of the other capacity strengthening needs that we have within our organizations and our chapters as professionals. And we will explore, as John said, within ourselves, right? Within our network, within the group of people that is here, and then the broader MCLD network, what resources do we have? What tools? I saw Gail mention that, something that she's been working on in the chat. So we'll kind of look at all of these things and see how can we support each other? Because the movement for us, what we really believe is that each one of you here is an expert. And so the trainings and the capacity strengthening exercises that we will have going forward will be in spaces where everybody who is coming in is as much a trainer, a facilitator, and an expert as much as that person is a participant and a trainee. Okay, so the tool. The purpose of the tool is to create dialogue among stakeholders through participatory reviews at different points in the life cycle of the program to determine, well, how does the program or the work align with CLD characteristics, and what kind of things do we need to do in order to course correct? Like I said, at least this was the purpose when we started out. Now, if we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Since we started out, the tool, we introduced it in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and French. We have CRECCOM Malawi with us today, and a big shout out to them. They have translated the tool into Chichewa for people in Malawi, and that version will be coming out soon. And we are looking at Swahili next. Now, again, I know a number of organizations globally have been using the tool. I assume some of them would have at least translated it into local languages in order to use it with the communities. This is the people who have reached out and let us know. So if you have been using the tool, if you have translated the tool, please share it out because it is important for people. Others can also use it. This is all in the public domain, and this is how we build our collective capacities. So the tool is available in 2 formats. What you see here on the screen is a screenshot of the mobile format, which was developed when a lot of members came and told us, your tool is great, but Excel is just so daunting. Frankly, if you're not used to M&E, then Excel is not very user-friendly. And so we have the mobile version which John created for us, actually. So thank you, John, for doing that. We saw over 1,450 downloads of just the Excel version of the tool in the first year. We have not been able to track the mobile version, and it's being used much more than the Excel version. And like I said, it's being used by a whole range of organizations. If we go to the next slide, John. So this is just a snapshot of what the Excel version looks like. So you can imagine why, if you're not familiar with Excel, this could be a little daunting. Next slide. And it will come up. Technology does like playing truant. So again, if you've used the tool or seen the tool, some of these graphs will be familiar. John, you need to do one more click. So we have these, when you use the tool, at the end of it, you have these fancy looking graphs which show you the results of what happens when you use the tool. If you go to the next slide, please. All right. So I said it's been a learning journey for the last 1 year and a capacity strengthening journey for me, at least, in terms of, just being a part of the process of applying the tool, of seeing organizations apply the tool, and of facilitating trainings on the tool. So such was the demand for the tool that we introduced 5-hour certificate trainings on the tool that MCLD offers. These are free. These are offered currently in 3 different languages: English, French, and Spanish. So as I said, initially we started out with the tool being something that could be used by organizations to see whether the programming is community-led now. So how community-led are we being in our work right now? And over time, are we becoming more community-led? If we work on some of the things that emerge in the tool, what is our trajectory of becoming more community-led? It could be used as something to make basically the programming community-led, but also a way to learn how communities are viewing your program. We may think we have the most accountable program in the world, and then you turn around and you realize that's not how the communities think about it. Yes, you have a feedback box. That feedback box is right in front of the village head's, house, and nobody feels comfortable going and putting in feedback into that box. Or yes, you have a phone number to anonymously call and give feedback. I don't have balance on my phone to call up that number, right? So sometimes we think we are, and then we realize when we have these conversations with the communities that we are not being as community-led as we thought we were. And the tool is a way of doing that, of getting to know how the community views the work that we are doing. But what are some of the other ways people use this? And this is something that first came up. I see Pascal on the call from our Beni chapter, and he was the person who first brought this up for us. This tool can be a tool for creating a common understanding at an organizational level, at the chapter level, at the network level, of what do we even mean by community-led development? Because there is no common definition or understanding of CLD, and it varies with context, right? And we have found, in fact, this has been such a powerful use of the tool that in our trainings, we have 5, like I said, the training is 5 hours. Out of those 5 hours, we spend about an hour on the tool itself and using it. The rest of the time, we work together to arrive at a common understanding of what are these dimensions? What is participation? What is inclusion? What does it look like in our context? What do we mean by sustainability? What do we think about when we think CLD? So it's a way of arriving at a common understanding of not just CLD, but some of the basic principles which are so integral to our work. And that's been a very interesting use of the tool, because we found that that also varies. In Canada, organizations have a very different understanding of inclusion than organizations in Malawi. And we see this happen in the training. So it's so important to come to that common organizational understanding of these principles. So that's been one use of the tool, the additional use that's come up over the last year. The second thing that's come up, which has been very interesting, is that this is a tool that governments, local governments, can actually use to make sure that they are interacting and working with communities in their work. And again, we'll hear examples from it of municipalities. I know in Kenya, in fact, next year, the Kenya chapter, next month, not next year, in May, the Kenya chapter is organizing a training for local government officials on the tool in Makueni County so that they can use it. So these are some of the various ways that the tool is being used. But what we want to do now, if you go to the next slide, John, is that we're going to invite, not this one, the next one, sorry. This was a skip slide. Okay, sorry, something happened. There is one, sorry.
Somehow 11 has been hidden.
Okay, never mind. Let's go to that slide with the speakers. There's one speaker who's missing from that slide, and that's Joanna from THP Mexico, THP Uganda. So we're going to hear from some of our colleagues from different parts of the world, the different ways in which they have used the tool, and why they decided to use it, how they used it, and what are some of the learnings from it, right? I'm going to request everybody to keep their shares to about 5 minutes also, so that we actually have some time for interaction after that. And like I said, we will be having a detailed pause and reflect session on the tool later on. So I'm going to start with Cassidy Miller from Outreach International. Outreach is an INGO that has actually, at an institutional level, adopted the tool after piloting. So it's been very interesting and exciting for us. So Cassidy, if you would like to share about how Outreach is using the tool and why.
Yeah, thanks, Nanda. So Outreach International partners with programs in 9 different countries that are implementing a CLD methodology that we call the participatory human development process. So for nearly 40 years, we have only ever utilized internally developed assessment tools. We have never used an assessment developed by an external organization. So we know that tools developed internally assess the work of the that are assessing the work of the organization are inherently biased. So we wanted to use the CLD assessment tool developed by the MCLD working group to allow ourselves and our partners an opportunity to assess our methodology from an outside, unbiased perspective and open us up to more possibilities and chances to develop further in our CLD context. So to do this, myself and my colleague Aline, who was actually on the working group to develop the tool, we developed and conducted an in-depth training with staff from our 3 teams in Africa, in DR Congo, Malawi, and Zambia. We did this over a 3-day period where we reviewed the tool, the meaning of each dimension, reviewed questions for clarity, and filled out the tool using a case study that we developed so that they would kind of have a different view of how to apply the tool before applying it to themselves. After the training, each of the teams worked independently to fill out the tool for their own organization. And then after receiving their responses, myself, along with my Filipino colleague, who works really closely with those 3 teams, compiled the responses, found trends among the 3 organizations and their responses in the different dimensions of the CLD tool. We gave feedback. There was a lot of misunderstanding with different jargon and terms. So we kind of gave feedback correcting the understanding of those terminologies. And then we identified the low scoring areas as being contextually influenced or a potential methodological area of improvement, along with other various influences. So with that, we proceeded to process those results with each of the teams, facilitating them to develop recommendations for follow-up actions based on especially the low scoring areas. Those areas that were contextual were incorporated in their annual and strategic plans for focus and attention for development and improvement. And then those areas that were more methodological in nature were added to our overall organizational planning that will be addressed through strategic initiatives by Outreach International in conjunction with our partners, and improvement of our methodology in general. So we are now developing a plan for implementation of the tool in an additional 6 countries, which will inform us further on looking at common trends for low scoring areas and help us focus our efforts in addressing these areas for continued development as a CLD organization. And I just wanted to say, kind of follow up on what Gunjan said, that this was the first time that our teams thought critically about our methodology, and were able to come together and kind of look at it from a different perspective and add, kind of take that outside perspective and hold our methodology up to it. So it was a really, really interesting conversation, difficult at times because I think some of them being practitioners for over 20 years in our methodology, that was challenging to them in a way that was kind of uncomfortable. But I think ultimately we came out with some really, really cool recommendations and realizations about the way that we implement our process, and have some really interesting ways that we're moving forward with how we're going to improve both the programs and our methodology in a CLD context.
Thanks so much, Cassidy. And I just wanted to flag that Outreach International was one of the organizations, Cassidy's colleague, Aline, who's not here, that was involved in the development of the tool. And it was really fascinating for us to see their journey of learning from the tool and adapting the tool. And I know they have a wonderful video on it with Cassidy. Maybe you can put a link to if you are willing to.
I will try to find that and put a link.
I know this is out of the blue, but okay, now I'm going to invite, so Cassidy talked about how it was used in multiple countries and it's being used globally. Now I'm going to move from there to India, where Ritu Nanda from the Global Fund for Children is going to tell us a little bit about how they used it.
Hi, everyone. Are you ready to visit India? Yes, if you are, give me a thumbs up. Okay. Yeah, I have a short presentation and I am presenting to learn from you. I do not know everything, so it's just presenting with a lot of humility. Just sharing my screen. Just a moment. Sorry.
We see your screen, Ritu.
Yeah. Just to give you a background, like who am I? So my heart is in the communities, and I coach people all over the world on community ownership and learn from communities. And my other skill is MEL. So today this is the combination. You'll see what I'll present. I used the CLD tool last year, and it was done over Zoom. And I did this with 3 organizations, which are grassroots level organizations based in different parts of India. And it was conducted in the local language. Yeah, we used the laptop to download it, not mobile. We found that more useful. And who were the participants? So in 2 NGOs with whom I did it, they were grassroots level workers because they work with communities. And in one, the head of the organization also joined. And these grassroots level organizations, they work with the marginalized communities, indigenous communities, women, children, youth. Yeah. So I work with Global Fund for Children, where shifting the power is the guiding force, and both in community engagement and MEL. And because I'm also the MEL officer there, so which, it means that I hold a lot of power. And what I mean shifting the power in community engagement is that GFC shifts the power to the NGOs, but do they shift the power to the most marginalized in the community? So I want to set this context before I share this. And how are we doing that? Is so we used Constellation's learning cycle with the NGOs first, because we wanted to shift the power there. And where the first step is they realizing each other's strengths, then asking them, okay, you have these strengths, where do you want to go? What is your dream? Not what is Global Fund's dream? And then they doing a self-assessment of their dream. And their dream came, community is at the wheel, we have sustainable community response, and so on. But when we did the self-assessment, and this self-assessment is totally contextual because it is prepared from their dream, not some external tool. And from the self-assessment, sorry, my dog. So the self-assessment showed that they were not that strong in community ownership. And that gave me an entry point to use the CLD tool because it was external. And I did not want to impose something and say, okay, we are going to do this tool. So, and because it came from their dream, they used the tool and they took ownership of the tool. So that is very important here. Sorry, I'm like messing up. Yeah. So I wanted to share that these are the three, because I did it with three organizations. This is how these beautiful, they loved this. They loved these spider diagrams. I don't know what to call them, but the field staff loved it. They did take a lot of time to comprehend this. But what helped? Okay, so I want to share the, So what are the findings which emerged? Like I found that they themselves found, actually, they came to the realization that they are more in providing services, but not igniting that community can respond to their own challenges. And while they do work with marginalized groups, some of them do use gender, they do focus on women, but the women are not challenging the patriarchy that the power, the men or the more powerful hold. So it is more tokenistic. And even if the communities are taking action, it is more on advocacy, but not on addressing their own issues. So these are some of the things which came up, which the tool really helped them to think. It also helped them, while they said, okay, sustainability is our dream, all the three NGOs, but they had no exit strategy in place. There was no collaboration within communities, or within communities it was, but between communities. That's a very good dimension. I think the dimensions I really want to appreciate, which have been drafted. Just a moment. And there is no role of community in MEL, absolutely not. But feedback is taken from the community. I did not find anywhere that ever the community had a role in designing the program, or what is the issue. So whatever is the issue, the mandate of that organization, and wherever they get funds, that is what guides the program, not what the community wants. So these kind of reflections were very, very helpful for them. And that helped me to then start training them on community ownership. So it came very naturally to them. So it's really helpful. Sorry, it's just the last point, if I'm not, is it okay, Gunjan, if I take 1 more minute?
Yeah, so, please go ahead. This is super helpful.
Yeah. So what are the takeaways from this is, what helped was because they'd already done a self-assessment of their dream. So I did not have to spend more time on, training them or building their capacity on this, on how to do CLD. It just came so naturally to them. Dimensions, as I said, have been very well thought through and absolutely very good. And the kind of nuances in the dimensions. But what was the struggle? And as is because it's not possible for the CLD team to, also because the local context varies, even amongst the three NGOs. So what I struggled with were the different levels, so because they could not relate to that. So because I have a lot of experience in developing self-assessment, so I could just adapt, and we developed our own, but orally, we did not write the different levels of the CLD tool, the different levels, and that helped them to assess where they are. It needs strong facilitation skills, so that is required. What next? So I would like to do it like in a few months' time, because I do see an improvement in the way they facilitate with communities. And what is my dream? That next time we also do with some communities, and how do they see this? So this is some sharing from my end, and I look forward to learning from you all.
Thank you so much, Ritu. That was so rich. I'm going to circle back to you on this, but I wonder if you have the Hindi version or something, or if you did something in Hindi, then I think that could be a resource for us going forward.
No, I did everything orally. I'm like a total facilitator. I just adapted, and all the three NGOs, even the terminology is different, So I will not go with any translation. I will just adapt there and then.
Okay, well, thank you. So from India, we're now actually going to move to Canada, and we have with us, I'm sure that, most people working in the field of CLD are familiar with the Tamarack Institute. The Tamarack Institute really works to strengthen capacities of organizations and individuals that are committed to CLD. And it's been very exciting for us actually to get into a partnership with Tamarack and the Deepening Communities team there to use the tool and apply the tool across a range of their members. So we have Dan Ritchie with us from Halifax, from Tamarack, and Dan's going to share a little bit about why and how Tamarack's been doing this.
Sure, thanks for the introduction, Gunjan, and good to see some new and familiar faces as well. And as Gunjan had mentioned, I'm joining from the East Coast of Canada, from Halifax. And to give a bit of a context, Gunjan had explained a bit around the Tamarack Institute. A bit more about us is we're a 20-year-old national network that's dedicated to supporting those who are working in community change. And as Gunjan had mentioned, we overlap with a lot of the work that's done through community-led development. And so our network is over 40,000 people that are interacting with our resources, largely focused within Canada, but also beyond as well. So our offerings include community practices, webinars, and things of that nature. And a lot of the areas that our members are focusing on are addressing these complex problems like ending poverty, addressing climate change, youth employment, and the focus area that I'm working within is deepening community. So that's focusing on building out a network of change makers that are working on reducing social isolation here within Canada. And so that was, part of our reason why we wanted to engage and involve with the movement for community-led development, and specifically with the CLD assessment tool, is that our values largely overlap. With their approach that we're taking, we're often guided by the principles of collective impact and asset-based community development. And as we've explored a bit more into, the language and the intentions behind the CLD assessment tool, we felt that it's really overlapped largely with what we're doing here within deepening community within Tamarack. And so this practice area actually has around 7,000 learners. So those are people who are engaging, involving with our webinars, case studies, things of that nature. And we're offering a lot of our information for free. But then to take it to another level, to another step to make it more practical, we actually have a membership structure where we have over 40 paid members who are representing not-for-profits, government, and resident groups that are all across Canada. And so those are existing within rural and urban contexts as well. And so a part of that, and why we really wanted to join on with the community-led development assessment tool, is the fact that we're doing this direct coaching with our members who are in different contexts, working towards a community-led development approach. And so the tool has been really practical and helpful for us in being able to build the capacity of those of our members, being able to get a baseline assessment and an understanding of where their current work is, being able to really start these conversations. And it's been really helpful for my job, full disclosure, to help guide my coaching conversations with all of our members, being able to give a visual representation of where our members aspire towards, what are the different dimensions that they want to work towards, and understanding what are the interventions that we can have here at Deepening Community with all the different resources that we're offering to help build the capacity of our members as well. So to talk briefly about the lessons learned, along with going through this process of our capacity building training through the CLD assessment tool training, we've also had the opportunity to draw our members together. So as we've drawn our members together, we've understood that they have different contexts. We often say within Deepening Community, if you've seen one community, you've seen one community. And so we've really recognized that that's been a lesson learned, but it's also been a great opportunity for those who are working in rural Canada to be able to connect to other members that are, maybe in an urban landscape as well. And Canada is a pretty spread out country, so the contexts seem pretty vast in terms of the different regions that we have. And so using this tool, it's been really helpful for gaining insights. We're currently receiving data from our 40 members. I think we've had actually not our full 40 go through the training process, but a good majority have actually completed the training and are in the process of submitting data for the tool that's going to help us gain an insight and be able to have that de-identified data and be able to show what's the landscape across Canada for all the groups that are working in different communities. And so a positive response that we've had is going through this tool, it's helped us really reflect as a group. And as I mentioned before, it's been really helpful for my direct coaching because this is fitting really well to towards the approach we're taking with doing direct coaching with our 40 members. This is really helpful for us guiding the conversations, and the language that's used within the CLD tool is often completely overlapped with the approach that we're taking in deepening community. And so I think that, it's been really helpful in being tangible, a visual representation. There's been some questions of it providing some form of a baseline, but mostly, it's that tool to be able to reflect as a group, know what our members want to aspire towards. And then in terms of briefly talking about the challenges, it's been a really challenging time with COVID, especially here in different parts of Canada. There are a lot of groups that really aspire towards having those in-person sessions to be able to walk through the tool and go through an appropriate community engagement process. So I feel like there's some level of an analysis paralysis that happens, and our members are often looking towards others for practical examples of how they've gone through the tool. But we understand that our members are working at different scales. So I think it's been really helpful for us to have sessions where we walk through the tool, but also bring our members together to be able to figure out the best practices for actually completing the tool and who are the voices that we need to involve and invite. So hopefully I've not gone too far over time, but if anyone's interested in learning more about our approach, you can reach out anytime, and I'll share our brochure here as well. And thanks, Gunjan and the team at MCLD.
Thanks so much, Dan. And what's very exciting to us, I think, also about Canada is that, just the fact that because the tool was developed, right, and tested and piloted and is constantly being revised from inputs from so many different countries, contexts, and types of organizations, its relevancy and use is not limited to one particular kind of context, right? We tend to, in international development, kind of tend to look at what we call global north, global south. I love the term majority world instead of global south. Since I came across that, that's become my go-to term now. But I think what was fascinating to me about the Tamarack experience was just how relevant it can be in the Canadian context. And like, Dan said, we have cities, municipalities using it, and just the learning process, again, for me to be in those trainings with them, there was just so much that you learn. And my own understanding, I think, of these dimensions grew from these conversations again. So, all right, so from Canada, we are now going to move to Uganda. And in Uganda, we have Alice with us, Alice Nakku from World Vision Uganda and part of the Ritu Group Consortium. And they invited, if I'm not mistaken, MCLD Uganda to actually apply the tool. So I will invite Alice and Joanna from THP Uganda to share with us the process and the learning. Alice?
Thank you, Gunjan.
Okay.
I would like to give a background, then I think Alice will come in.
Sure. Joanna, go ahead.
Yes, greetings to all of us in the meeting. My name is Joanna Mbakulo, and I coordinate the movement in Uganda. World Vision is one of our members, and we are very proud of them. Together with World Vision, we have a project that we're implementing. This is the Right to Grow, and our role here is to address nutrition and WASH issues. And one of the components for this project is that all activities have to be community-led, and that is how we come to work closely with World Vision. In this context, World Vision invited us to help or assist them in identifying if their activities, their community gatherings are community-led. And we went in there, that was early this year, that was in Feb. And our approach to this work was that we went in there, we observed, we participated, we attended, and we consulted community members. We sat in their gatherings to find out how they were participating, how they were being involved, how they were relating with the government. And we were relating with the dimensions in the CLD tool. That is how we did this work. And when we were dealing with the community, when we were acting out with the community, we also were having conversations with the World Vision members of staff with whom we were working with in the community. And we were sharing with them what we are finding out as we were using the tool. We were sharing with them that this is what we see, this is what we're finding out. So it was kind of easy for us to relate and to understand each other and accept what we were finding out because we were actually talking about it. That was the easy part of us working together. And for us, MCLD, we actually did not find any challenges when we were using this tool with World Vision because we were sharing all the time. We were talking and we were putting things right and clearly and saying, this is what we find. Do you see it or you don't see it? And we're like, oh, we don't really see it that way or we see it this way. So it was not so much an issue of contention because we were sharing and we were participating and we were closely together in the same area. I would like to ask Alice to come in and share with us what she experienced when we came together to use this tool.
Thanks,
Alice,
Joanna.
get on board.
Thank you, Joanna, and good morning to you all, and good evening to Joanna our side. It's a good evening in Uganda. Yes, as Joanna has just indicated, World Vision and Joanna work together in the Right to Grow project, a community-led project. And in all our participation, we use the community-led engagement. And our model of implementation for all advocacy work here in Uganda is a model called Community Voice and Action. This model is actually a community-led model for advocacy where we find that the community members are involved, are participatory, and do their best to ensure that all they can advocate for their needs. And so we saw it best to invite members from MCLD to give us pointers on how we are doing in regards to community engagement using CVA model. And I must say it was a very, very great experience. We as World Vision are very proud of this model, and it was a very good experience to see what someone from another, organization or someone outside World Vision views this model, and to judge us or to grade us on the level of implementation. And so we discovered some issues which we could actually work on immediately. We found that this tool, you can discover challenges there and then, and actually have the community members as well as the people who are supporting work on some way to get solutions towards those established gaps. And of course, we saw some of the issues that we did not earlier think as they might be issues regarding how the community might, do participation without any costs. And we found out that those are very easy means. So it was quite a very good experience. I think the tool is a very easy tool. It doesn't need, someone come and direct. The community members can use themselves, local governments can use it. And so it was a very good experience. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Alice and Joanna. And Joanna, I see you were actually driving and still joining us for the call. So thank you for that and safe driving. What was exciting, I think, for me, for the Uganda experience was not just that one organization invited others to come and kind of help them and support them in the process, but also the fact that that organization was World Vision, because the scoping group within the collaborative research team that developed the initial tool, that developed this tool, was actually led by Holta from World Vision. So that was super exciting to actually have them then implement it and invite somebody else actually to come and work with them on implementing it. Wonderful. So I think the last sharing that we will have experience sharing today will be from Malawi. And Malawi, again, very interesting experience because in Malawi, CRECCOM, which is a local organization, translated the tool into Chichewa. And again, a big thank you to you for doing that. They're in the process of finalizing the translation, working with the MCLD chapter in Malawi, and then we hope to put it onto the mobile version soon and have that available for everyone. Because we realize that language is such an important part of access. If we're talking about CLD, it has to be in a language that is accessible, right? Like, how do we expect community members to deal with it in English if the tool is in English? And we recognize that, that is a challenge. As Ritu said, she was doing it orally, verbally in Hindi in India. And so we are also going to encourage every one of you who is actually using the tool, if you do have translations for it, please share it out. We have a policy in the movement that any translation that we put out, we officially get it done by a couple of people and then vetted, so that just to make sure that the context of the translation is making sense. But then it becomes a resource for each one of us out there, a collective resource. And everything about this tool and the work that we do at MCLD is collective. So please, if you are doing that, if you have translated the tool, please share it and let us know. With that, I am going to move to CRECCOM, and Joseph is joining us. Joseph, are you in Blantyre or Lilongwe?
I'm in Zomba, where
you're in
we
Zomba.
are headquartered.
All right, welcome, Joseph. Over to you.
All right, thank you and welcome everyone. We thank you, Gunjan, and the team for the compliment. So I'll share our experiences as CRECCOM. We've used the tool twice, and the second time we used it, we were supposed to be with Gunjan out in the field, but for other reasons, she was not able to be with us out in the field. But during the debriefing, we were together. So as per the guidelines of the CLD tool, you can use it at the onset of the project, midway, or for purposes of evaluation. So during the time we used the tool for the second time, it was for purposes of evaluation, and we wanted to evaluate one of our projects. I think, let me share my screen for people to appreciate some of the content that I'm sharing here.
We see
So
your
screen, I will not say much about CRECCOM. You can visit our website. I've shared the link in our chat box. But why we used the tool, it was for a number of purposes, mainly three. We wanted to do an evaluation in one of our projects. The short form of the project was again engaging schools and communities in support of girls' education. We implemented this project in Cholo district in Malawi between 2016 and 2018. So we also wanted to see whether the communities where this project was implemented, they had that understanding of community-led development, as well as whether they really drove the project, whether they were really on top of things. And then we also wanted to learn so that we can use the lessons in other projects, because like at the moment we've just started implementing a local capacity development project, and we want to replicate the lessons in this 3 years project that we are getting direct funding from USAID. So basically, that's what we wanted to, that's why we used the tool to evaluate this project, which we implemented so that we can replicate the lessons in the current program that we are also implementing. That's about the project we evaluated. It was an education program which was falling under the PSI-PSE, the Partnership to Strengthen Innovation Practices in Secondary Education. It was a multi-donor program, but for us, we were getting funding from Echidna Giving and Dubai Cares. So let me go straight to the lessons that we learned during this evaluation process using the CLD tool. According to the feedback we got from the team that we gathered to learn it from, they said that some of the approaches that we used in the program were predetermined by our funders and the CRECCOM, and they were not part of it. So the rest of the approaches, they were able to say that in this one we participated, in this one we proposed, in this one we even innovated after we learned how the implementation was going about. But then for some approaches, they were honest enough to say that I think for this one, you just brought them to us. So in the current project that we are implementing, we are working on that to make sure that possibly all the approaches and all that should be should be from them. They should participate and then make necessary proposals to say, we wish we do it this way. We would love if the program goes this way so that we are able to address our challenges. And just as everyone has already shared, as well as been done, we also learned that there is no perfect way of administering the CLD tool. It differs from one context to another. So the best way is to just contextualize it. I think this is what prompted us to do the translation, because we noted that sometimes you fail to facilitate the tool due to language barriers. So it's just a question of contextualizing during the facilitation, because as I said that we facilitated this tool twice. First time, we did not do the group work, which we did when we were facilitating the group during our second time. So first time, we were a team of 2 facilitating to the group, but we noted that we had the challenges with time and all that. So during our second time, we had to put the people in 3 groups, and then we had a set of 3 facilitators facilitating. So there is no perfect way as to how you can administer the tool. It varies from one context to another. And again, we also noted that it is not good for one person to do the facilitation from the very first dimension to the next dimension. So there is need to have a team of facilitators, as one is facilitating, one is doing recording, and even maybe probing more where you feel like people are not sharing adequate and enough information. When it comes to bullet number 4, we are saying some questions need to be condensed to avoid being redundant. What we mean is that sometimes the participant feels like you are repetitive when you are asking them, because sometimes you can be in dimension A, finding out about other issues, But when the responses are coming, you find that they have already provided the responses for other factors as well. So there is need for facilitators to be familiar with the tool so that you are able to tell that I think I already got the responses for this factor, and then you just go ahead to score. The last bullet, what we learned is that for honest feedback, it is not good that the same team that implemented the program facilitate the two to the same beneficiaries or to the same team that were involved during the implementation of the program. Because sometimes it is difficult for the people to give honest feedback when they notice that Joseph maybe was our program officer or our M&D officer. You interacted with the people. Sometimes they may be tempted to please you instead of providing honest feedback. So I think these are some of the lessons that we've learned for the 2 times that we have facilitated the tool. As I finish, we also captured the 2 challenges. One being the issue of time, that in one sitting, it is difficult to facilitate the entire tool. So it depends on the facilitation skills that we have, how much you are engaging with the people, what other approaches you are using and all that, as well as the issue of need to control power dynamics, as there is a tendency that some individuals, once they voice out their position, everyone is silent. So there is a need to control this so that as you are getting feedback, every participant should be free to participate freely. I think these are a few thoughts that we gathered as CRECCOM, and we thought it wise to share in this forum. I think let me end our presentation here. Thank you. Over to you, Gunjan.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And what Joseph was referring to, yes, was I was so excited to actually go to Malawi, to Chora district, and to see the tool being used in the community. You know, I hadn't had the opportunity to do that, unlike a lot of people. And USAID was there, USAID Malawi was there, and I have Sothin and Gertrude from the Malawi chapter on the call. They were there, and we were all set to go and, you know, implement the tool in the community. And that morning, I tested positive for COVID. So I couldn't go, but they all went ahead. It was in Chichawa, and so, you know, not that I would have understood much in any case, but it was a fantastic learning experience. I know we're running short of time and we need to get into breakout groups, but before we do that, I think the last couple of minutes, I want to give to Sothin to talk about, Sothin was there with Joseph when the tool was implemented in Malawi. But I think what I would really love, Sothin, for you to share a little bit is the government part of it. You know, like the local government, what the Malawi chapter is planning to do with the traditional authorities.
Thank you so much, Gunjan. Thank you so much, Joseph, for rightly capturing your experience. I was so excited to be part of it. And it was one of the first times I saw the tools in action, and it was excellent and relevant to such a context. So my name is Sothin Ziba. I'm a growth and community engagement freelance enthusiast. I change these words all the time, but they sound fancy. Yeah, so in Malawi chapter, we got training about we went through TOT for the CLD Assessment Tool. And I should point out from the word go that this training was very collaborative, and we were part of really building how this training of trainers will go by. So After this training, we engaged in particular several engagements, and also we initiated our own internal program to really go into the field and pilot the use of these too. Very
Sothin, you are breaking up for us. Maybe try without the video and.
CLD, this is a top-down approach to community assessment too, could be really vital for the communities, to empower the communities on how they accept, on how they engage with the projects that are coming into there, and also how they assess those projects. Sorry, I was breaking up. I think I had an interruption on the internet. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Sothin.
All right. So the pilot will work as follows. We have identified 3 traditional authorities in the rural area who have subcommittees that represent communities. These are the village head committees, local government committees such as the VDC and Area Development Committee, which are a build-up from the individuals in the community to the rise up to where the district level local government receives and hears the needs of the community. Now the district executive committee, which comprises of different departments, forestry department, agriculture and health, comes together and compiles the community needs. And then when projects, international organizations, funders are coming on with projects, they have to present to that committee, and that committee has to approve what goes down to the community based on what the community needs. That's ideal. So we've learned that in the process that they did not, the committees did not get any training on their role as a community leadership. So we have combined the CLD Assessment Tool with their own local government training to first empower them on what they're supposed to be doing as committees. That is compiling community needs and assessing programs. Now we are empowering with an extra tool, which is the CLD Assessment Tool, to help them really know the dynamics of the tool at entry level or through their lessons, really build up that conversation and allow a sustainable development to happen in the community. Now, the key element of these programs that we're piloting are that the local government itself will also get training so that they are not surprised with the community position when it comes to this program. I'm excited to this how this program will go, and this two-sided approach. And lastly, the Malawi chapter is also creating more demand for use of this tool. And from the CRECCOM experience, which I attended, we are learning that we need to be vigilant in supporting the people that are using the tool in terms of really deepening the capacity, as well as helping them really grow and providing the necessary tools for these projects continuous. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sothin. So this was just like I said, we wanted to give you, a taste of how different organizations from different parts of the world, different sizes, different contexts, have used the tool in very different ways. Like I said, I've been learning from each experience. Each time somebody comes back to me and tells me how they use the tool, I've been learning from it. I know the team has been learning from it. And so we will have a special pause and reflect exercise, just as Dan had mentioned that Tamarack is doing, right? We will also do that, where we will invite anybody and everybody who has either used the tool or is planning to use the tool to come in, and there we'll look at very practical tips. We'll look at practical adaptations. We'll look at how some people have addressed some of the challenges which others have brought up. So we will have that. This was just to give a sense of how this tool can help us to strengthen our CLD capacities. I know we're running late. So what I want to suggest now is we will quickly go into breakout groups. These are going to be very small breakout groups. Every breakout group will probably just have 5 people or so. And what we would like to do is that we want to hear from you. What are some of the capacity strengthening needs as individuals, organizations, or chapters that you are facing? And what are the resources that exist? So for instance, if somebody in the group says that they have, they are looking at facilitation we heard how that is so integral. Somebody is looking for facilitation support. If somebody else either offers, can offer, knows of courses, trainings, materials that can support them, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to connect the dots on needs and resources within the movement itself, because we believe we have expertise, so much of expertise sitting right here. So we'll do that for 15 minutes. We'll come back. If you have questions about the tool, if you have questions about the tool application, about what some of our speakers have shared, put them in the chat box. We'll collate those questions and we'll get them to each of the speakers to share more about their experiences and speak to them. But we really do want to do the breakout group so that we have some sense of going next in our capacity strengthening series. What is it that people, members want us to do? So Sarah, are the breakout groups ready?
Yeah, they're ready.
Perfect. We will come back from the breakout groups and then do a quick roundup of, just some of the key events that are coming up with MCLD. And each of the breakout groups has a facilitator. Please ask somebody to take notes and to share those notes so that we can map the needs and resources together. And we'll share all of this out in the, in the email which goes out with the recording. Okay, Sarah, let's get into the groups. You should all get a pop-up message about inviting you to join a group. And then for the rest of you, you are in this group here with me. So whoever doesn't go to any room is here with me. Would somebody want to volunteer to take notes? Okay, I will take notes then. So if you just want to introduce yourself when you speak, in the interest of time, we can do it together when you speak, and just share a little bit of what are some of the capacity strengthening needs that you see for your organization, for yourself, for your chapter. And feel free to unmute and speak up. Does anyone want to share? Are there any capacity strengthening needs that you feel you have for your organization personally, that you feel for the chapter? I see people from different chapters here. What is it that you would like the movement to do to support you? Wonderful. We have everybody back. Now, what I'm going to request everybody, all the note takers, to do is to please post your notes into the chat so that people can read it. We won't have time to do a share out because we have 2 minutes left really on this call. As always, we're running over, but we really hope that this has helped us to identify at least some areas that we want to be, we want capacity strengthening in, and also some resources within our existing networks. What we will do is that we will share out this information, we'll compile everything and share it out within the network so that we can see where to go next from here. In the remaining couple of minutes, two things. One, if there is any national chapter that needs to provide any update, short 30 seconds update, then I would invite you to do that now. And Sarah, if you get the screen deck, slide deck up in the meantime, we can also just very quickly do a run through of the upcoming event. But does any national chapter want to give an update? Steve, please go ahead.
Yes, we have a training coming up, like you mentioned, for Makueni County government. We're training some of the officials on the tool in May. Yes.
Perfect. And this is part of the work that the Kenya chapter is doing on the School for Community-Led Development with the Makueni County. That's wonderful.
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you so much, Steve. Any other chapter updates?
Can I make a quick?
Yes.
Okay, just to say that as part of the National Chapter's umbrella strategy, we're holding the network weaving course now. Let me know if you'd like to learn more about that. And in June, we're going to start a Change the Game Academia course, which would focus on domestic resource mobilization for our National Chapter members and anyone else who is interested.
Thanks so much, Anne. Yes, so we have some difficulty with the slide deck, it seems. Otherwise, this would be up on the slide deck as well. But yes, so we do have an ongoing course. We have a new course coming up. We have two upcoming things which are going on. Currently, there is a summit on gender-focused community-led development, which the Hunger Project Mexico has been organizing. It started yesterday. It's going to end tomorrow. It's in Spanish. But the session tomorrow afternoon on community knowledge management will be in English. So if you're able to join, we have that going on. On the 4th of May, next week, there is a session with Humentum. Humentum is organizing an event on operationalizing partnerships of consequence. I'll be there, but we also have Michelle Kamal from USAID who will be speaking there about the new approach to partnership and how partnerships can and should become the way to shift the power in international development. So thank you, everyone. And unless somebody has anything else they want to share, I suggest we all unmute and say bye together like we do in.
Last thing, so hello.
Yes.
So I thank you very much for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here. So my question now, so this is very, very important. I would like to really thank you to putting everything together to have this platform of sharing skills. Now in the Americas, I only see Mexico and Venezuela. So when are you guys going to talk about Haiti? Because we are very interested in this.
We would love to have a Haiti chapter. I know we've been having participants from Haiti coming in and a couple of people who have been wanting to speak to it. And maybe you can, if you have any updates, you could reach out to Luna, or Luna, we could speak about it. Would love to have Haiti participate, 100%.
Yes, Luino, reach out to me if you would like. I put my email in the chat. I'll put it again. And happy to talk to you about that because we would love that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for sharing, especially to all the teams and the speakers who shared and used the tool. We learned from all of you. So thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
everyone.
Mr. Pascal.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.